Hey guys, welcome back to Maxplained for Unification. Today I have a faction guide for you for the Tyranids, the space bugs, the great Auroras. They may remind you of Zergs of StarCraft and StarCraft 2, but it should be the other way around. Zergs should you remind of Tyranids, because Tyranids, the concept of Tyranids and everything is older than the StarCraft franchise. But okay, these guys are very unique in multiple fashions. They have the synapse stuff, they have unique resources and no vehicles of sorts, so they are very interesting. You can't really compare them to any of the existing factions, but that's cool. More uniqueness is always welcome. And one thing I want to say before we continue this guide is that you may or may not hear that I have a little cold, so I apologize for any sniffing and coughing. I try to keep it minimal, but yeah, can't prevent everything, I would say. Okay, let's hop into the save game. And here we are in the save game, where we see the whole lot of Tyranids in one view. As always, we will start with the resources and unit caps. And as you see, Tyranids only have requisition, no power resource, but they have an additional resource called influence. Let's stick to requisition for once. Requisition is needed for all units and some upgrades, but not for buildings and stuff, for the most buildings. Requisition is gained by capping. It gives 6 as the standard, plus 6 income. But building a listening post does not provide requisition, but influence. But I will talk about influence a little later. And you get only plus 5 from a HQ. So yeah, you primarily get requisition another way, and that is these reclamation pools you can build. You can build up to 3 reclamation pool per capped strategic point. So, or per spore chimney, you need to build a spore chimney, and then you can build 3 for each, so per relic or strategic point, which sums up to plus 6, plus 18, plus 24 per strategic point, which is the standard amount for an LP3. So that's how they get their resources. Exactly. And now let's talk about influence. Influence is in the beginning capped at 20%, and the cap will increase 16% for every spore chimney you have. So you need at least 5 spore chimneys to be able to reach 100%. You don't need to be able to reach 100%. The end game building costs 85%, which is interesting, because with 1 less you can only get to 84. So for the final building you need to have 5 spore chimneys alive. So just a little note on that one. How should I say, the requisition? No, how you get influence is by building spore chimneys. Spore chimneys generate slowly influence. If you upgrade them, where I have an upgraded one here, once upgraded it produces more. I don't have exact numbers for you, but you can upgrade it even more, so it gives more influence, even more influence. The most influence though you get from your last building, the capillary tower, which is the building that also costs 85 influence, but it highly increases the influence gain. Basically building it is a GG in the end game when it comes to influence creation. Yeah, that's that. What else I want to say? Yeah, that's pretty much it. And you can also get requisition from this building on a slag deposit, a magma vent, and if you see it, it gives you 50 requisition, which is a whole lot if you consider what else you have to build and to do to get some requisition. So if you have a slag deposit, take care of it and build the magma vent. The magma vent costs quite a lot of influence, but it is worth it. Let's talk about the unit caps. The unit caps are the standard 2020. You start off with 5-0, but what they mean is different. You have the brood cap, which is your standard small unit, your small broods, and you have your support cap, which is here meant, how should I say, what are you called? Greater beasts? No, give me a second. Oh, I have it on the tip of my tongue. Monstrous creatures. Monstrous creatures are your bigger fighting units in the late game, and yeah, it's also kept at 20. You can increase this cap by building another HQ, which I wouldn't do. That gives you +5 of the small brood. But also, let's get to the normal view. You can get more small broods from your tier 1 buildings, Gauntle and Tyrannicus Brood Spire, and the Gauntle Brood Hive, each giving you +5. And the support cap, your monstrous creatures cap, is increased by your tier 2 buildings, Xenotype Brood Womb or your Carnifex Chamber, and you also get +5 from your tier 3 unit producing building, your Trigon Warren. Okay, what's also interesting is that you have global abilities for the Tyranids, which are activated by clicking here. Here's also where you have your building, because yeah, we'll talk about it when I talk about buildings, but here is where you click and you can drop all your buildings. You can Shadow of the Warp. The Shadow in the Warp. Disable abilities for a unit for 15 influence, which is quite a lot, so I normally don't use that. Synaptic Grip is nice if you are in the later stages and don't have a Synap creature around. The Hive Mind focuses keeping strong link between Tyranids. All Tyranid units are considered under Synapse for a short period of time. Okay, I need to talk about Synapse here, I guess. Synapse is an aura from most buildings and some units that makes non-Synapse creatures morale unbreakable, you could say. They don't receive any morale damage. Standard units don't have a lot of morale, so they are highly, how should I say, highly inclined to stay within a Synapse range where they just fight until death. And having a global Synapse aura, which is basically this, for a short amount of time can turn the tides of battle. Then we have What the, which is a intervention of a lurking skulker, which will attempt to sabotage an enemy vehicle. May cause the movement or combat impairments, loss of control. So heavy damage or no effect at all. So it's a random effect to a vehicle. Either it stops moving, it can't shoot, it loses control at all, or it takes heavy damage, or nothing happens. So really expensive, but should also work on relic units. And you have Jones is acting strangely. Target creature is infested with volatile spores, causing it to explode. Yeah, and it's also a fear. So it's very, it's like a how should I say, a little virus or a little alien thing inside of the body, and then he explodes like in every good alien horror movies. Okay, that's about it. Yeah, let's talk about buildings, and then we need to also talk how to get to buildings. So if you are normal in the normal overlay, you don't have any builders. You drop all your buildings from thin air, you could say. You can also build your buildings everywhere. The in-game mechanic is a little different. There is an actual builder. If you click here, you select the builder, which is the orbital flight Hive fleet. If I'm clicking here and clicking on it, it's actually an invisible flying builder which moves. If you click here, it moves here. If I follow it, click here, you see it's really fast, but it's not instant. It's also unkillable, but can be stuck, so you need to know how to select it. So you sometimes have problems if you're like, I want to click that, but I'm toggling the taskbar. You can bind bind this to, like, I have it always to 4, but you can bind it to whatever you want. So if you click in here, you just click 4, and then you have also the hotkey for build, which is B. So you have your standard hotkeys for your building stuff, but then these are, you need to click. You can't, there are no hotkeys yet for these. So I highly recommend you bind your builder at the start of every match, so you have quick access and don't toggle off on and off the taskbar all the time. But that's yeah, something to note of. And I just want to show there are no limits where you can build. You need to have sight, of course, but that's pretty much it. Your builder does not give you any sight, which would be OP if he would. Okay, that's that out of the way, your general stuff. Let's something also general is that most buildings have this like green fog around them, which is miasma, which is stated here. Toxic miasma. Passive ability slows nearby enemies and reduces the damage they deal, so a debuff. And they also have a synapse aura. Basically all buildings apart from the reclamation pools, they don't have these auras. I just see that they also decayed. I didn't know that. Thought they have always +6. Interesting. I thought the stuff from buildings never decays, but the more you know. You can later on increase these auras, increases the range, and the range of both auras, which you can get in tier 3 from the spore chimneys. Really expensive. I want to just show you on the toxic miasma. We will research it now, and then we will come back later here and look. For now it's like just on the edge of the reclamation pools. We will see when it finishes where it ends up. Okay, yeah, you have your HQ building, which is pretty much standard. You have your first capo unit, your first hero unit, some upgrades, and to tier up. Tier up is standard with add-ons. Then you have your tier 1 unit production buildings, which is your Gauntel hive, or Gaunty, sorry, Gaunty is the plural, I suppose, which you get your lesser gaunts, like Homer gaunts, which are melee, and your Termagants, which are really cheap, your ranged gaunts, and then Gargoyles, which is an interesting unit. I will come later, which is a flying infantry unit, you could say. And then you have your Tyrannicus Brute High Spire, which gives you access to some more special units, and also some tier 2 and even tier 2, I think, another hero unit here, and a lot of upgrades for the tier unit as well. And tier 2 you have 2 more buildings you can build. One, your Xenotype Brood Worm, which gives you Xenotropes and Biowars, a very good supporting units, or your Carnifex Chamber, which gives you Carnifexes, which is the backbone of your monstrous creatures, really powerful, really tanky. And now we have the upgrade, and we see that basically the whole map becomes green, the whole line of sight. So it's an big boost in the area. Just look at it, it's all green now, Jesus. And yeah, then in your tier 3 you get access to the Trigon Warren, which only gives you access to your relic unit, the Trigon. And yeah, you also have your Capillary Tower. Don't mix it up with the Capillary Towers in Dawn of War 2, they are not as powerful here. The Capillary Tower has an aura of despair, which decreases morale. Also enemies over a massive area. It includes Synapse and Toxic Miasma, which is standard. And weapons following active. All biostructures heal from orbital landing are twice. So the structures heal normally, which I should mention, they are like living creatures, so they heal on their own. You can't repair them, I think. Yes, you can't repair them, so they heal from their own, which is highly doubled when you have a Capillary Tower. Increases the influence rate, I talked about that. And all nearby materials recharge fast. Okay, this is also interesting. If you build this, you get less requisition though. It's like 10% less requisition, so it's substantial. But the boni you get from it should make up for it. So it also states that you might want to build it in the middle of the map or where you expect the most finding. It's not invulnerable, so build it with care. You need to have at least some units around it to defend it, especially when it's starting to build. Yeah, another buildings you have are your spore chimneys. I talked about them before. These are your listing posts, you could say, which generate influence instead of requisition. The requisition is from the strategic point below it. You can get the 2 researches I told you about. You have this necrotoising spore cloud, which is an spore cloud around which damages and slows? Damages. And reduce the requisition income. It's like the 6 requisition you would normally get, you lose. If it's decayed, it's even worse. So it costs 6 requisition to keep it up. It's also the area of effect isn't large enough to be effective against ranged units, so it's only a defensive mechanism for melee units. It's only be able to be used once the spore chimney is upgraded once. Another interesting part and most important part for the spore chimneys, if you talk about army, are these spore clusters. Spore clusters are small suicidal squads you can build here and deep strike anywhere on the map. This is the big difference between good and very good Tyranids players, is the use of spore clusters. You could and should always have one spore chimney put to any numbers to be able to deep strike and build spore clusters in midst of the battle. The spore clusters share like how should I say, a loading space of 5, and it's also the maximum you can have anyway, so 5 is the maximum, and they can all be stored here and then dropped in one after the other. Another income building which I told you before is the reclamation pool, which gives you requisition but also gives you access to a Ripper Swarm, which is I will talk later about it, and has some upgrades for the Ripper Swarm as well. In general, the upgrades for the units are directly in the production building themselves, so you don't need to search around. There is no dedicated research building. I talked about the Magma event, that it's really important, interesting. It only has a Synapse Aura, no Miasma Aura. And that's pretty much it. You don't have access to any defensive buildings if you're not playing, let's say, turrets and stuff. If you're not playing survival, where they have pretty overpowered turrets. And also if you have like the booby trap option on, you get like spore clusters, immobile spore clusters as instead of mines. Okay, did I told you anything? Yeah, just again, if you have a late game and you're getting tier 3 and have some spare influence, try not to get the Trigon Warren up, which costs 65 influence. Maybe wait for the extra 20 to get a Capillary Tower, because afterwards influence is a non-issue, you could say. You can build everything which is influence related, because your influence income is so high. Okay, let's talk about units. As said before, you don't have access to builder units, so it's all fighting units. We start with the small brutes. In tier 1 you have access to, or maybe we start with the hero units. Yeah, let's do that. You have kind of leader units. The first leader you have access to is the Brute Lord, which is a mobile Synapse Aura, so it's the first mobile Synapse you have, so he is really important, or should I say it is really important, because that's your Synapse on the field. You can't do much on the field without him in the first fights. If you upgrade him, you can get a Gene Stealer bodyguards up to 6. There are 3 upgrades for Gene Stealers. Every upgrade gives him 2 additional bodyguards you can recruit. In tier 2 you get access to Hypnotic Gaze, which temporarily stuns units in an AoE, which is really powerful. The second commander, the second real commander you have access is in tier 2, the Hive Tyrant, which you may recognize if you played Dawn of War 2, which is the standard, one of the standard commanders, primary commanders you can have there. Here it's in tier 2. Pretty powerful, a lot of HP, a lot of different weapon options, from a Venom Cannon, which is good against vehicles and building, a Devour, which is good against infantry, a short range, it feels like a little shotgun, you could say. Then you have Lash and Bone Sword, which is your melee variant, Sizing Talents as well, also melee, good against infantry, both. Chance to deal damage, fatal against injured enemies, so really strong both. And you have the Barb Strangler, which is a long-range artillery-like weapon, which has an AoE. Also Synapse Aura and Toxic Miasma, if you research it, it's a research to have Toxic Miasma, so a slow and damage reduction aura, which is really nice if you have like a melee half-turn which wants to charge in, or a range Tyranid if you want to protect your other ranged stuff. You also have Leech Essence, rips the life force from the enemy, feeding it upon it, so it's a lifesteal ability. We will see in the Techtree when it is enabled to use. Yeah, once we are at it, here are the Spore Clusters. These just rather slow, so you want to drop them upon your opponent so they can immediately explode. The explosion does... give me a second, can see here. Damages all units within explosion proximity. Enemy caught in explosion are covered in miasma, revealing them, so cancels infiltration, slowing them down and reducing the accuracy. So really nice debuffs. As I said, if you are wanting to play Tyranids quite a lot and maining them, you need to know how to use Spore Clusters. That's all your commander-like units. Let's talk about your basic brutes, you could say. There you have the Gene Stealers. I should say, if you noticed, the Brute Lord and the Gene Stealers are both infiltrated. That's in tier 2 research for them. The Gene Stealers are your melee only first buildable unit. They cost 3 supply, which is their biggest downside if you ask me, because you start off with 5 supply cap before you build a second building from your HQ, so you can only build 1 Gene Stealer to start, which is really bad. If you ask me, I would like to see them at 2 supply, but I don't think they're gonna get changed, so that's something you want to keep in mind, that you have 3 cap cost. Kind of okay in melee. They have this, what is this, attack bonus and defense bonus, probably because of the upgrades they have received. There are 3 upgrades for each tier, tier 1, tier 2 and tier 3, increasing the size of the squad and the damage and health. Also there are some upgrades increasing their damage, giving them detection, and upgrades that increase their health even more. I will talk about something else in a minute for them. Here you have the Homogons from a Gaun T Hive, which are your melee variant. You see up to 18 in tier 3 if you have all the upgrades done fast and leap to the enemy, which is really nice to see. So they close the distance, you could say. Really nice for that. HP is okay. I mean, it's 5000 HP, but it's like tier 3 and 18 models. Yeah, melee only. And then you have your Termagons, which are also like a big squad of shooting aliens, have some melee, but should mainly used in range. They have also the access to Devourers, which are very good against infantry. Larger range than the standard rifle they have, but only 5. The upgrades they receive don't increase the number of them. If you have 5 in the beginning on a squad of 10 or so, it's okay, but having 5 Devourers in a squad of 16 is kind of underwhelming, because it could be that the guy is shooting is on the edge here and all the low range stuff is here, so you get into melee before this guy can really dish out the damage. So generally big blobs of ranged units aren't the best, you could say, because the bad guys aren't shooting, or if they're shooting then you're basically in melee range. Yeah, but you need to reinforce them because the HP, especially in the early game, isn't that high, so you want to have a lot of models. All these 3 share something, and that is that they have upgrades for them. The Gene Stealers have a separate to the Gaunt. upgrade, which is called sorry, without number, which is here, the red one. And let's just read what it states. Makes Gene Stealers squads faster and cheaper to generate. Gene Stealers move slightly faster. Similar here. Gaunt squads faster and cheaper to generate. Gaunts move slightly faster. Tier 3 research, which basically means you can spam these guys. The reinforcement makes them so... If you have the resources, the reinforcement time is so low that you can just overwhelm whole armies with like 3 squads of them and having them on Overwatch. Really late game, really resource intensive though. Another tier 1 unit you can build from your reclamation pools are the Ripper Swarm. The Ripper Swarm is meant against buildings and also states infantry and heavy infantry, but it's more of a sneaky unit that wants to kill buildings on the backside. Can get upgrades to be faster and deal more damage. And what's the interesting part is they can basically have the IG tunnel ability to get to any reclamation pool. And as you can build, can I build more reclamation pools anywhere on the map as well? You basically have a quick way of getting them in the enemy base, so it's like a sneaky little spot. In general, you don't want to have the reclamation pools in the enemy base because this is your economy, but still can be very fast anywhere. Yeah, die pretty fast though, so not a big fan of them. The other tier 1 units you have access to are Ravengers and Lictors. Both are considered overpowered or at least annoying. Lictors are really annoying because they start infiltrated, can detect and decap. You can get up to 3 of these guys. Interesting part about these is about your squad cap issues in the beginning is these cost 1 of your brood cap, but also produce 1 brood cap. So they are basically brood cap neutral, you could say. You build them and they cost 1, but they also give 1. So interesting note about them. Don't know why they are not costing, let's say, just no cap, but it is as it is. Yeah, they have upgrades to increase their damage and overall their sight. I have 1 Lictor here in the midst of enemy territory, which has the maximum upgrades, and you see it's basically the whole map in smaller maps. This map is really large, so you can see how far it can look. Not sure how far the detection range of him is. If it also increases, if you know, please let me know in the comments. So really nice spotter unit. So in the late game, in the early game, really good at harassing. In the late game, really good at spotting for, let's say, your artillery units. The other tier 1 unit is the most infamous unit. It's the Ravengers. The Ravengers are a little overpowered, and that's most of the overpoweredness is becoming from their building damage. It doesn't state here, but their damage against building is really high and will get nerfed. They are melee only in tier 1. What is also a thing about why are they overpowered, they can deep strike anywhere on the map. Deep strike meaning they are buried underground, so you can rush the enemy bases. So Ravager Rush is one of the OP threats in this mod. Rather slow, but can, it's showed in here, can teleport, aka tunnel through the ground to the other side. Also can tunnel into the ground to become infiltrated, can't move here, and will get out of the ground again. So utility is what they are meant to be, but overpowered is what they are right now because of their building damage. In tier 2 they get access to Devourers, which are your short range stuff that Broodlord also have access to. Interesting that the Devourer here states it has a larger range than the standard one, so interesting. So these are your short range Devourers, very good at killing infantry, but also Death Spitters, which are medium range, effective against most targets. For me, these are like autocannons, you could say. I don't know about the range. Autocannons tend to have larger range, but from the damage spread in my head, I compare them to autocannons. Please also, if I state something about damage values, please correct me in the comments if I tell something stupid. The last monstrous creatures unit we have is in tier 2 unit, the Warrior. Warrior squad costs 4 brute cap, which is quite a lot. But it's really versatile. They are considered glass cannons. They have a lot of HP because I made the upgrade, I think. But they are really versatile. I think they don't start with all these. We will see in the tech tree. They have rending claws, which makes them very good against in melee. But also they can get access to wars, which is your short range anti-infantry. Death Spitter, which is your autocannon-like, and venom cannons. Venom cannons in the late game are really good because these are good against vehicles and buildings. They have also the Synapse Aura, which is dedicated by this nice aura symbol here. And they have Bioplasma, which is like it vomits a green ball on the ground. Damages infantry and stuns them temporarily. Really good. It's like a grenade, you could say. Tier 2 though. Yeah, speaking of tier 2, let's start about monster creatures. Your tier 2 monster creatures from the what are they called? Xeno whatever hive here, Xenotype hive, are one your Xenotropes. Sorry. These guys start with squad size of 2, really far apart, so really hard to get them to shoot the same thing in my mind. If you upgrade, get upgrades on them, you can get up to 3 in one squad. These guys have medium range, are rather fragile without the upgrades, are considered heavy infantry, have Synapse and Toxic Miasma by default, and have the Cyanotrope Catalyst, which makes an enemy not die for a short amount of time. It still receives damage, but it doesn't die, so very common ability in this mod, I would say. Damage is good. Most of the time they don't shoot if I use them because the range they have. So I have my, let's say, my gaunts and stuff in the front and my artillery in the backs, and those are also in the middle ground. So I want to keep them in range of the. Yeah, it's a little mess if you fight with them. You want to keep them safe because they are expensive. The better or the most important unit in tier 2 is not the big carniflexes, if you ask me. It is these biowars. These biowars are your artillery unit, your mobile, rather mobile for an artillery unit. You can have up to 2 in the squad in the beginning. If you upgrade, you can up to 3. Are really good against infantry in the beginning. Look at the range, it's like really high. You wouldn't suspect it from Tyranids, but they can also get upgrades. Bioacid Spore Mine, which is basically making them to AV and anti-building. So in the beginning of tier 2, I leave them most of the times in their anti-infantry loadout, you could say, because in general Tyranids attack really fast because of how they attack. I will talk about it later in the tech tree. So you mostly will face infantry once you're tier 2, so I stick them here, but you can rather quickly change them to anti-vehicle. The Biowars and Cyanopropes are limited to 2 squads each, so you can't spam them, which is a good thing. Let's talk about what most people have in mind when they hear Tyranids, the Carnifex. You have 4 different variants of Carnifex. You have the Screamer Killer, which is a melee only Carnifex with no special abilities, don't get any upgrades, it's always in this form. You have the Hellflex, which is also a Carnifex ranged variant, which starts off with, does it states? Twin Link Devourers and Twin Link Death Splitters. Death Splitters was, again, give me a second. Okay, so both 2 mid-range autocannons and 2, let's say, big shooters or short-ranged anti-infantry. So these are 1 on each side, I see. Look, they're all the same. Don't ask me. So you can also give them another Death Splitter. One member of the squad. Let's see how it changes. Interests me. The next one is your Carnifex, which is basically the name of all these. It's tier 3 though. Can get both roles, melee and range. Can get Toxic Miasma Aura if researched. And has also this Bioplasma grenade stuff. And spit. Can get Bob Strangler, which is your artillery-like unit. Oh, both are. Interesting. So both change. It looks like the description is wrong. They start with like 2 twin-linked Devourers and can upgrade to 2 of them to Death Spitters. I will make it in a... Oh, wait. Is he using it again? Interesting. So I will note that in a bug report. Interesting that he doesn't stop using it. Let's keep an eye on that. It interests me because I haven't noticed it. In the midst of the battle you won't use it more than once before moving it again, but if you doesn't click on it, you have kind of a attack ground move. Yeah, interesting. So this also means that he doesn't auto attack if you don't move him, probably. How is it here? The range isn't that great, so it isn't like an targetable artillery you want to click all the time. Maybe even a bug. I will put it in a bug report as well. As I said, you can get the Bob Strangler, which is your long-range artillery stuff, and your Venom Cannon, which is your anti-vehicle stuff. Starts off with ranged and close combat, spawns with 2 sets of sizing talents and a mace, so it's mostly meant for melee in the beginning, but can get ranged weapons as well. And then we have the old One-Eyed, which is a hero unit, so you can only have one. Is like a really big melee Carniflex guy. The Toximiasma, I think, is also an research. Yes, it shares the same research with the Carniflex. You need to research it, so both get that. It has the rapid regeneration ability, which is really nice. Basically free regeneration if you click on it. Like little green sparkles around. And Living Battle Ram, which is meh. It's mostly to do with the Dawn of War pathing, so if there's any little nook or cranny in the way, it will stop. You can use it. Makes a little dance and then will go through, dealing AoE damage, I think. Oh, you'll see what it does. I think, yeah, it knocks stuff around. If there's something big enough, it will stop. Similar to what the blood crushers of the Chaos Demons have. And lastly, we have the Trigon, which is the relic unit. Yeah, and it's most of the times people describe it as underwhelming. I haven't played around with it a lot. It has more HP than the the old-eyed one, but still it's rather fast. It can teleport and can be deep strike from his Warren. Has also the ability to Electro Shield, which oh, it's an AoE. Waves against all enemies nearby. It is created micro repression across Trigons. Can use armor. Left click activate battlefield. Aha. It affects also friendly units around it. It's shockwave against all units. All units, also friendly, so it's an AoE damage. Even itself is damage. Interesting. It states, it doesn't state anything. It will go on a rampage. Yeah, thanks for the info. Carnifex are also considered really powerful because, as I said, most of the time these two in the beginning, because how early you can get tier 2 with Tyranids, and then you have these Carnifex out, which are Demon Armor High, if I'm correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Demon Armor High in tier 2 is, with this amount of health, like 3000 HP, is really hard to kill. Normally the units that are good against it are commanders and whatnot, and commanders can't really deal with a unit that had 3000 HP, so yeah. I myself tend to go to Biowars because they are also really useful, and yeah, they can be countered, but at the time they get on the field they are really strong as well. But a lot of people also like to go with Carnifex into 2 instead of the Biowars and Xenobrops. Let's look at my notes if I have forgot anything. Yes, I wanted to talk about one thing of the... I've turned, you see this little shield around it that's in research, which gives them damage resistance. And the last thing, Gentleman's Rules, I was talking about the opinions of Ravengers. I would say that Gentleman's Rules is that you don't get more than 1 Ravenger in tier 1, no that more than 2 Ravengers in tier 2, and then it's obsolete because the limit in general is 3. That all is true until they get nerfed in the next version of the mod. Okay. Cool, that's pretty much it for all the units. As the usual, we will now jump into the tech tree I've prepared, so see you there. Ah, 1 second. I forgot one unit. It's in plain sight here, the Gargoyles. The Gargoyles are a tier unit. Tier 2 unit from a Bounty Hive, is a flying unit. Has ranged abilities, are meant to fight infantry and aircraft. The range is mediocre, but they can attack from angles normal units can't attack from. Are considered infantry though, so they are really easily dealt with when they are in range of an enemy unit. And another thing you see here, they tend to get stuck, which I have noticed quite a lot because they have like it's a flying swarm unit, so look how they get stuck. So use them with care if you want to fly over mountains. It can happen that 1 or 2 models will get stuck. You don't have an ability to get anti-stuck, so yeah, just a little reminder here. So, but now we go into the tech tree. Sorry. And here on the tech tree document, things I want to talk here about is firstly, how do you tech up? You only have 3 tiers. How should I say? 3 tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 0 is always, if you want to adjust it, it's like having nothing on the field, what you can do then. But in Tier 1, you tech up after building one of your production buildings, like your county or your other hive there. But it costs 30 influence, and you start with 20 and have no influence income, so you can't really rush Tier 2. For a faster Tier 2, you will get the county hive because it's 4 influence cheaper. And then you will get your smoke chimneys and get all your influence put into fast taking. I would recommend to get some reclamation pools first, but that depends on player preference, you could say. Similar to the Tier 2 upgrade, the Tier 3 upgrade, you need one of the 2 Tier 2 production buildings for it. So it's pretty similar, costs 50 influence, I think. Yeah, the upgrades for most units, let's say for most production buildings, you have these blue upgrades here, which increase the general fighting capability for the units and sometimes also the squad size. For those 2, for Gentilers and Gaunts, it increases squad size. For Lictors, obviously not. And you have a Tier 2 variant, which is then followed up by a Tier 3 variant. And for these 2, I talked already about the without number variant. Similar, you have stuff in your Tier 2 buildings, or let's say in your 1 Tier 2 buildings, in the casino type, whatever stuff, you have upgrades, 2 upgrades, 1 in Tier 2 and 1 in Tier 3. It's basically Tier 2 because we need to get the building to get Tier 2. For these 2s. For the Carnifex, you have upgrades directly, not the first 2, but the later ones, the old Eyed one and the Carnifex. They have these miasma upgrades, the increased carapace, these what are they called, hooks, which increases their damage, and yeah, I forgot another one. So these are upgrades that take quite a long time and are really expensive, but will make your Carnifex a lot more effective. Yeah, and your relic unit doesn't receive any upgrades. Also very upgrade intensive is your HQ. Upgrades for your infiltration upgrade and your armor and damage upgrade. And these are your feeder tendrils, which give detection to Gene Stealers and Broodlord. Last unit, last building with a lot of upgrades is your secondary, your Tyrannicus hive. It has a lot of upgrades for warriors and mostly for the hive tyrant, which has like the miasma auras, increased health, increased damage, increased damage reduction. You also have upgrades for your warriors or your gaunts, not the gargoyles, but your ground-based gaunts, which increases their attack speed, so increasing their damage. For the warriors themselves, these are adrenal glands or whatever they're called, so they are little stuff that is added to them. Yeah, but the other upgrades I talked already about, like the global upgrades. These are abilities, these are upgrades normally. No, these are abilities. This is wrong. The wrong symbols here. Oops. Give me a second. These are the upgrades here. Wrong symbols. I'm sorry. Need to finish it. Need to change it. You haven't seen anything. I will change the Techtree as well online. Okay, that's pretty much it. Yeah, okay, these are your global abilities. I should note, if you play Survival, you have another global abilities where you get access to your turret, which is this one, which is, as I said, really OP. If you build these turrets, they cost like 12 influence, have an immense range, deal a lot of damage. Yeah, Survival becomes a piece of cake once you build them. So yeah, a little bit defeats the purpose of Survival, but that's how it is right now. About the units, mostly I want to talk about how detection is everywhere. As I said, you need feeder tendrils for Brute Lord and Gene Stealers, which is in tier 2 research. Your tier 1 detection is only the Lictor. So if you go for brutes and the enemy goes for infiltrators, you have a problem. You need another tier 1 building as well, which delays your tier 2. And yeah, either you try to play defensively to get early tier 2 and the feeder tendrils, or you need to build a second production building. Yeah, the Ripper Swarm, interesting, is also detector. That's interesting, because for those you don't need to get tier 2 or another production building, you can get just Rippers. Note that, please. Yeah, and for the other stuff, yeah, let's talk about what's also interesting is their bonus units. In Survival, you get Gene Stealers, Warriors, Carnifex, Old-Eyed One, and the Relic unit, with all the same abilities and stuff as the standard units. One note here, the Gene Stealer squad is limited to 5 or 6 units of the squad, so the Gene Stealer reinforcement is really weak. Okay, that's about the Techtree. Next up, I have prepared some build orders as the usual. So see you in the next document. And here we are in the build order document. The build orders are basically bound about what tier 1 building you get. One of my more favorite openers is the Gaunt opener, where you get 1 Gene Stealer and directly your Brute Lord here, so you don't have any, how should I say, lost production time here. Get your Gaunt Hive, immediately get 2 Homogons and 1 Termagon, and that's pretty much all the requisition you have in the beginning. Then you want to take care of taking the map. You have like 3 capping units right in the beginning, and this one with once the Termagon is around, you want to start to be aggressive and force them to make mistakes and stuff. With the first influence you get, you want to get some reclamation pools, because reinforcing these guys isn't cheap. And then you also want to get an upgrade which makes their fighting capabilities increases their fighting capabilities by quite a lot. And then you want to get tier 2, not tier 3. The number of reclamation pools can vary quite a lot. I talked a lot with Peachy-chan, I think its name. Yeah, Peachy-chan from the Discord, who plays quite a lot of Tyranids, and he suggested me that you don't build any reclamation pools and rush tier 2 and get all the reclamation pools in tier 2. I myself tend to get at least 3 reclamation pools in tier 1. It's basically like building tier 3 listening posts, you could say. So I find it borderline minimum to get this much income. But yeah, you can get more, can get less with all the benefits and the advantages or disadvantages, like higher eco but slower tier tech and vice versa. Another opener that is viable but not overpowered is the Lictor opener. For the Lictor opener, you want to get 2 Gene Stealers. 1 Gene Stealer will not finish because you need cap. But once the Tyrannicus hive whatever finishes, this one will pop out immediately. So you have 2 capping squads, which is the bare minimum. And then you will get 3 Lictors out and a Ravager. So the Lictors are there to annoy your opponent, kill enemy capping units, and decap enemy listening posts. And the Ravager, I stated it's a little bit overpowered, but 1 Ravager is okay and we can deal with it. The job for this Ravager is to kill enemy listening posts. The Lictors aren't really good at it, the Ravager is. These are unbreakable, the Ravager is not. So keep this in mind. You don't have a mobile Synapse creature around, so if they lose morale, you need to get them back to one of your Synapse buildings. So try to keep them off combat and just attacking listening posts. You also want to get Lictor upgrade some at some point, but I would also recommend getting some reclamation pools. This the reinforcement apart from the Ravagers isn't as taxing, so you and the upgrade for the Lictor is really cheap, so I would recommend getting this upgrade before getting the reclamation pools and then getting tier 2. One thing Peachy-chan also said to me, if you get this opener, you are more inclined to go to the Cyanoprobes and Biowares as your artillery support, while here, where you don't have a lot of army, you're more inclined to get to Carnifexes. But that's what he said, you can make both tier 2 buildings work with each. And then you have the Gene Stealer spam. This is one of the builds I would also say that you need to, let's say, rush tier 2 with. You get 3 Gene Stealers with 1 production building. That's the cheaper one, the Gaunty Hive, which costs 16 instead of 20. So you have 4 spare, which is interesting because once you have built all these with your Brood Lord, the upgrade for the Gene Stealers costs 5 influence. So up that point you will have the 1 extra influence. And then with all the influence you get, and you're also capping the map really fast, you want to get to tier 2 fast. Why is that? Because your Gene Stealers are okay in tier 1. They are rather expensive to reinforce. So that would say, why don't build these things here? It is that the upgrades in tier 2 really make the Gene Stealers a viable choice. The infiltration, the carapace upgrade, the damage upgrade. These are all tier 2 upgrades you want to get if you want to go with Gene Stealer spam. Gene Stealer spam is supported best with Bioworth, I think, but can also work with the Carnifex, so pretty universal build. A little weak in the beginning if you get rushed. The Gene Stealers themselves aren't the greatest in holding it off, but is really annoying in tier 2, early tier 2. One build I haven't tried myself, I would say, there's a thing missing here, I will add that, is the Heavy Eco, which is basically get a lot of reclamation pools. How do you get that much influence? You upgrade your Spore Chimneys, which you normally wouldn't do, or not a lot, because they're expensive to upgrade. And yeah, you need your requisition elsewhere. So this is, yeah, you get like cheap infantry. This is the cheapest infantry you can get after Gene Stealers, but this only costs 2 supply. So with 3, 3, 2, 2 supply, you have 10 supply. Get your Brood Lord later on to have some Synapse to kind of hold your own. Not the best combination here, so you really rely on your tier 2 having a big impact in tier 2 with like upgraded Spore Chimneys for a lot of influence. Not Spore Chimneys, what I call Spore... yeah, Listening Posts. Upgraded Listening Posts, you have a lot of influence, a lot of Reclamation Pools, you have a lot of Requisition, so this is like a tier 2 boom build, you could say, but really weak in tier 1. And the last one I just want to state here is the overpowered build you should not use. You can use it against enemy AI if you want to see it once or twice and like overpowered builds. It's the Revenue Rush. The Revenue Rush, you want to get your Brute Lord first because you want to have him to walk to the enemy base, to have vision, and to be an mobile Synapse Aura once your Revengers lose their morale. You don't really want to fight with him, but you keep him in the range that the Revengers can teleport to him to get their morale back and then jump back into battle. You only have one capping squad here, so it's a little how should I say, yeah, you don't get a lot of eco here, especially if you add the third Revenger once you have your Gaunty Hive, which is a cheap version to get more unit caps around. You also want to get one Lictor and not more. He is mainly there for detection if the enemy has infiltrators and for decaps. So these guys can continue fighting while this guy is decapping. Yeah, as I said before, your economy is really low, but if you want to continue a game, if you need to continue a game, normally this is what you build and then you win. But if you need to continue the game because you failed at a rush, for whatever reasons, you want to get some requisition income and then tech to tier 2. Okay, that's the builds, and I will finish up as always with one replay. That's a game I played against Shaz from the Discord. He is probably not pleased that I chose this replay because he considers Tyranids overpowered in all possible ways, and yeah, but that's the replay I chose. There's also another play. I casted a player who played Tyranids against number 6567. You can look out for that. There's also like good plays from this Tyranid player, but I really want to show off the Gaunt opener, how I see it, how I would use it. So see you in the replay. And here we are in the replay. As I said in the beginning, it is Shaz playing Orcs versus, let's keep the fog of war, me playing Tyranids. Shaz normally prefers to use Tau. I think he's a big fan of Tau when it comes to the Discord, but also plays Orcs quite well. Yeah, the build is pretty much as I stated in the build orders. I get one Gene Stealer, one Brute Lord, building the Gaunty Brute Hive as soon as I can, so I can start getting some Hormagaunts. You see the resource income in the beginning is really low, so you really are inclined to cap stuff. I don't know if the units are really that cheap in comparison, but that's how the eco goes. In generally, I would say the eco is really interesting because you need requisition to get more influence, and you need influence to get more requisition. It's like really binary. You can get it spiraled up really fast, but you also need to get units. So if you are lacking in one of the two, you will lack in both shortly after. There's a Brute Lord. He's up faster than the Gaunts are, so I will use him to scout where I can attack. And the first two Gaunt squads, Hormagaunts, I will use to cap 1 point each, so I have my 4 points in the base really fast. Building Spore Chimneys as soon as I can, of course. So the Brute Lord itself isn't the best in fighting. You can fight with him, but more than anything else, you want to have him survive because you want to have the Synapse Aura. So he's not the tankiest of all commanders, but in tier 2 you can get infiltrated. Here I try to annoy him by killing some Gretchens. He reacts, of course, and gets them away. But still, I killed 1 or 2.
which is annoying. And once I see the Big Mac, I know I need to get out of here, because the Big Mac has more HP, less HP, but has way more damage than I do. And here you have my first brutes out, getting Spore Chimneys, even getting a reclamation pool now to afford the reinforcement of my guys. Getting intercepted with my Gene Stealers here. Here you see the jump ability. I don't know if it knocks back, I don't think so, at least not like standard orcs. Need to reinforce the Gene Stealers, which is really expensive, like 40, and look at it, the Homagons cost 15 and the Termagons cost 10, so these are the really cheap guys. Don't really want to reinforce Gene Stealers too much. That's also why the Gene Stealer spam isn't the greatest in tier 1, because you don't have the resources, and resources they cost aren't, how should I say, in their abilities they have yet. So I have Spore Chimneys everywhere, getting my reclamation pools, and now starting to attack, getting more and more Gaunts here, having my Brute Lord here, mainly before, okay, they cause knockback, mainly here for Synapse, but also will use them to fight. Need to micro a little bit better with my Termagons. Now I'm basically overwatching them, so you see your income is really low in the beginning, so the cheap Gaunts aren't cheap for no reason. And I try to attack here. So you see that the Homagons that lose morale, I micro them back to the Brute Lord, or micro the Brute Lord next to them. So that's something you need to keep in mind. The morale will not restore itself. Other than that, I yeah, as for the usual, try to focus the melee squads, the range squad with the melee units, and try to force the commander and stuff with the ranged units. This is a fight I will lose, even with a full squad of Termagants shooting, so I need to turn back. Losing a whole lot of units here. This squad of Termagants, Homagons has only 1 unit inside, I think. Here, 2 units now, so I need to get back. Getting quite a lot of damage on the Big Mac, which is good. And now try to fight around this area here. I think, yeah, I'm attacking already. I have built my reclamation pool. Getting the upgrade, which is expensive, but it's worth it. And then attacking, so exactly the build. So you need to micro a lot in this build, and macro as well. So at some point I see that this is no point. This Homagon has only 1 model, so I turn back. All the while I took this relic and had no resources to build stuff on it. Gene Stealers around the map to get some more points. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. I need to run back. The Termagons survived, most units survived with the Termagons. Now I have the upgrade, so they all deal more damage, but I fought before. Maybe a mistake. Maybe I need to wait for the upgrade to fully commit to a fight like this. But that's okay. I used the spare influence I have to build some more reclamation pools. You don't want to build too much, because this one is maybe too much. One thing, if you cancel these buildings, you don't get your influence back. So once the building is planted, don't try to cancel it. Because what I was trying to say is, because once you hit tier 2, you want to immediately put down your tier 2 production building. Once you hit tier 2, you want to hit your tier 2 production building as soon as possible. Here you see that regeneration is really good on the buildings. He focuses it. If he goes to melee, I will... Is this upgraded? No, it's not upgraded. I need to upgrade it so I can use its ability. I now have a way better income, but not enough. Okay, I have enough to get my Xenotype Brute Womp, where I get my, what are they called? Biowars. We have now big shooters on Yemeni, so this is like a big no-go normally to get in here. Yeah, you see these are way too far in the front. These guys are getting chopped down, so really bad engagement here. Need to run back, need to get my other Homagon here, and yeah, fight here. I should, if possible, upgrade it. Yeah, I upgrade it right now. Having some spare requisition I will use once this Womp is up. Just as a quick reference, tier 2 is nowhere near for Shaz right here. He's now tier 1.5 right now. There's no real tier 1.5 for Tyranids.
And now my Womp is there, and I immediately building one Biowar. Biowar is only 120, which is really cheap, but you see your income in general is really low. Getting also the tier 2 Gaunt acclimatization, which increases health, damage and speed. So basically an overall. And here I have the upgrades and use the AoE to deal quite substantial damage against these Storm Boys. And here my Biowar's out. Once Shaz saw my Biowars, he has two options. Run back or run in. Because you don't want to stay here longer than you need. I get 2, which is the limit, and then we'll get the upgrades to get 3 models for each squad. Need to get my influence into more reclamation pools. So take this as a low to mid skilled match here, at least at my end, because I have not used any spore mines yet, which I should and could have used a lot in this engagement. Even especially in the first 2 engagements, I could have disrupted and slowed his ranged units quite a bit. Here I used his aura to kill off his last Storm Boys. So parking them next to upgraded Spore Chimney is quite a good idea to have an counter to enemy jump troops. And the range you see is immense. Even from this area they can shoot up to here. Yeah, here's the upgrade I will get, and yeah, now spamming reclamation pools because I'm not as good as I should be. Now I should move a little further. I mean, these guys are in range. You can see this is immense. But else I'm sticking to this heavy cover here and try to fight from here. My Broodlord is a little two-way back. What you can do, it's expensive, but it can be worth it, is get the infiltration research for it. But yeah. You can also get some Cyanoprobes for some more HP, how should I say, Synapse Aura. Now that I am trying to attack his base, I will get one of these with some anti building, you could say, and the other is going to be anti-infantry. So I will focus with the anti-building stuff, the enemy buildings, of course. And the other one I just let them fire at anything. You see the income of requisition isn't as much because I'm constantly need to reinforce these guys. But now I have way more influence, so I can get to tier 3 even. Now my Xenoprobes are out. So these guys are my mobile Synapse Aura for now. Yeah, and at some point I have so much spare resources that I get another hive here. I think I do for the flex I get a Carniflex chamber here. This is not only flex but also good to have a unit, a building rather close in some prolonged fights like this for some Synapse Aura, and some Miasma, which is really nice to have if you want to fall back to something. Yeah, your Cyanoprobes, you see, they really need to move really close to attack both with their models. Yeah, they have quite a lot of HP, but yeah, should be like right here. You have the Conflicts Chamber. Yeah, and this is cleaning duty right now. Can get the Spore Chimney here. Not Spore Chimney. Is it Spore Chimney? Yeah, Spore Chimney. Sorry, I was thinking it was something else. Yeah, he tries to jump in, but I have a lot of a lot of stuff that can fight back here. Capping and decapping his points, of course. The Biowars are only infantry, so if you have something that can shred infantry, and you see these guys are really low, in general, like what they call Storm Boys are the natural enemy of these guys. So you want to keep your Termagants close, and or of course your Spore Clusters. Spore Clusters, because the Spore Clusters you can also drop in on enemy
jump troops to disrupt them and deal a lot of damage, slow them so your artillery can move out of the engagement. Yeah, Shaz is, I would say rightfully so, complaining about Tyranids. These are counterable, but if you play them good, you can also counter a lot of stuff. Yeah, this game is now prolonged because of Steam lag, so we can just leave it in the background. So tell me your thoughts of Tyranids. Did my video help you? What did I forgot to talk about? What did I told you wrong? And what did you want to add here? Most importantly, I would thank PG-chan for his advices. He gave me some advices on what build orders are viable and what not, and also some general advices on how to play them. So thanks again for that. But yeah, don't stress my voice even more, I would say, as always, thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.